Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Professor Dungeon Master's incredible top 20 most popular tabletop role-playing games list of 2025. It was built by counting the number of events that were run at Gen Con that were not company sponsored. So this is organic community interest, right? And it's so fascinating. But I I looked at the 20 games. I actually did a video on every single game, talking about my experience with them, my thoughts on that particular game, if I was surprised whether they came up on the list. But what I want to talk about today is something else that the list illuminated for me, and that was the difference between multi-world systems and dedicated world systems. So let me tell you. So let's. I'm just going to give you all the multi-world systems off the list that I can remember. Some of them are like, yeah. So okay, Dungeons and Dragons. It's a multi-world system. And when I say multi-world, let's look at Dungeons and Dragons. Greyhawk, Eberron, Forgotten Realms. Um, these are all distinct worlds, right? Rick and Morty, Stranger Things. All these are official. The Lego Dungeons and Dragons. These are all distinct worlds that can be run, but also it's saying you can roll your own, right? So it's all these built out commercial worlds in addition to a roll your own. Like you as the dungeon master are going to make your own, right? So let's look at the ones that are on the list. Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, um, Cipher System. What else is on? Savage Worlds. Okay. And then, oh, here's a good question. Does Morkborg count? Right? Like, I don't know. I know. Morkborg, no. Morkborg is as a grim, dark fantasy world. Here's another one. Shadow Dark. Is that a multi-world system? I don't know. Like, I mean, I own that book, and I don't think they even define their own world, let alone a multi-world system. So I don't think Shadow Dark would fall in there, right? Okay, now let's look at dedicated world systems, all right? Call of Cthulhu. That is a dedicated world system, right? You're going to play. But that gets interesting because Call of Cthulhu, it's going to be a world populated by cosmic horrors, right? But I do believe Call of Cthulhu allows you to play in any time. So you can play in the 1920s or you can play in the 2020s, right? So that arguably may actually count as a multi-world system, right? But let's okay. So Call of Cthulhu is on the brink, right? Starfinder, that is not a multi-world system. It is one world, and it's essentially Galarian, in the future, right? In a star-flung future, right? And it does not tell you like how to build other worlds. That is a dedicated world system, which is interesting because it's connected to Pathfinder, which is a multi-world system. But let's get into one that is absolutely a dedicated world system. Avatar. Okay, so this is the Magpie Games that is based off of the Avatar world, Last Airbender. That is a dedicated world system. Cyberpunk Red, dedicated world system. Okay, Eldritch Automata, dedicated world system. Um, Vaesen, a very distinct, dedicated world, right? Tales of the Valiant. That is a multi-world system. There you go. And so I thought this was interesting, but here's what gets really interesting. Let's talk about Daggerheart, right? So Daggerheart is only one book, whereas Dungeons and Dragons is three books. And then I bought and read and played Daggerheart, right? So, but my question then is, wait a second, is that really a multi-world system? It claims to be. It tells you about campaign frames, but there's almost no information. What they're saying is you can use any of these campaign frames, and it says you can make your own campaign frames, right? But it doesn't give you any advice on how to build a campaign frame, right? And so, like, you're kind of like, well, wait a second, how are they getting away with that? How did they do one book as a multi-world system, right? Because like Cypher System isn't doing that. They have one book, but then they have each of their new settings in other books, right? You can buy, like, not only do they have other, like, they just brought out a book. There's a book, like, there's a Cypher System book that is like, if you want to play a traveler, if you want to play cyberpunk. So they have a distinct book for every genre, right? And so they are really equipping you to build these worlds, right? Whereas Daggerheart, it doesn't equip you in any way to build these worlds. It just tells you you can. You're like, well, wait a second. How are they getting away with that? How are they telling you, go ahead and roll, build your own game, um, build your own world, but they're not really giving you any information to do that, right? Or very limited, scant amount of information, right? Well, this is one of the things I think is brilliant. Is the reason why they're doing that is no one is coming to Daggerheart if they haven't already gone through the gate of Dungeons and Dragons, and I think a lot of games do this but don't say it. They are assuming, they're powerfully assuming that if you are playing another tabletop role playing game, you've already come through the gate of D&D and you've already read 1,150 pages. You don't really need to have what a TTRPG has explained to you, and you certainly don't need to be told how to build a world. And the reason why is Dungeons and Dragons has already done that work. And this is a thing I think we're just not, we don't, like, there's so many people who complain about Dungeons and Dragons that just bring all this harshness for it and bring all this castigation and all this vexation over Dungeons and Dragons, right? But the reason Dungeons and Dragons is the number one game in the world, tabletop role playing game in the world, is it does more work. It is literally facilitating work. It is facilitating like entire world building systems. Other games can assume you already learned that when you come to their game. And I think Daggerheart very much does that. And I think Cypher System does some of that too. Well, no, that's not true. Cypher System has actually done the work and built out these other books and have built out specific world books, right? So it's very interesting. It really made me think when I was looking at the list. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion, nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like subscribing and have a fetch millennium.